This is when they ultimately nominated Jo Jorgensen. And it was months before I think she was in, and they were trying to figure out what to do. And I got a call from two higher ups there asking if I would consider it. And they wanted it was about a 20-minute or so conversation. And they asked a little bit to clarify some of my positions on things. And I was, at that point, I had already sort of ideologically shifted more. I don't even want to say more to the right. I was already ready to support Trump. So I didn't think it made any sense. The libertarians, sadly, it's, as I always say, it's trying to wrangle cats. Let's debate whether we should have, driver's licenses instead of actually doing anything important. I love libertarian ideas. This country was founded largely on libertarian ideas. Classical liberalism is really just libertarianism with some set of rules around it, like some minimal set of rules around it. And that to me is how we should be governing ourselves. You can have all the ideals you want, but you usually can't live in a utopia. You can have little brief moments of it. And libertarians largely live in a utopia. But then at some point the rubber meets the road. And I would say largely Trump, imperfectly, has been the most libertarian president that we've had in a long time.
All right. That was a friend of the show, Dave Rubin, revealing that they were totally going to make him the libertarian candidate for president, but he didn't even want it. He said no. Because he understands that, the person who's really speaking to those people's issues is Donald Trump, which I think is true. I think we actually have a clip of Donald Trump expressing, a sort of core concern, because I think that the fundamental libertarian idea is that, the state, that if anything can justify the state, it's defending people against aggression. And I think he's talking here about one of the most important and under-discussed kinds of aggression.
And it must be because of MIT, my relationship to MIT. Very smart. He goes, I say, what would happen if the boat sank from its weight and you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery and the battery's now underwater and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there. By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. Do you notice that? A lot of shark. I watched some guys justifying it today. Well, they weren't really that angry. They bit off the young lady's leg because of the fact that they were not hungry, but they misunderstood who she was. These people are crazy. He said there's no problem with sharks. They just didn't really understand a young woman swimming now really got decimated, and other people too. A lot of shark attacks. So I said, so there's a shark 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards, or here. Do I get electrocuted? If the boat is sinking, water goes over the battery, the boat is sinking. Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? Because I will tell you, he didn't know the answer. He said, nobody's ever asked me that question. I said, I think it's a good question. I think there's a lot of electric current coming through that water. But you know what I'd do if there was a shark or you get electrocuted? I'll take electrocution every single time. I'm not getting near the shark. So we're going to end that. We're going to end it for boats. We're going to end it for trucks. The truck.
I forgot about that clip. I love my favorite part of that is and the guy told me that's a great question. That's no one's ever thought of that before. You're a real outside the box thinker.
Not to do a generational crime, but I don't know if you guys ever talked to an old boomer who everyone they meet just thought they were a genius expert on. I feel like I've met quite a few people where it's like, and you know what? I was talking to the guy at the Verizon store, and he was saying I was the best customer with the smartest questions that he ever had. They said I'm such a good father. I'm such a I'm raising you so well. Anyway, this is getting a little Freudian, but I've heard people talk like this. Is what I'm.
Yeah. We've all talked to your dad.
No.
And that's what our Sunday meetings are. Is just talking to.
Yeah. No, he's not like that. But yeah, it is familiar and much less scary when it's kind of just some guy down the block and not the libertarian hero, Donald Trump. I mean, what do you think of his bona fides, Ben? Trump's. What do you think of Rubin's claim?
I mean, look, if libertarianism is all about a minimal state, then kidnapping people for crossing, borders without permission and separating children from their parents, is all, that's all fine, clearly. And, tearing up the Iran deal and assassinating Soleimani, good libertarian policies right there. I mean, I don't really understand this. It just seems like, to the extent that you can say that like Trump did something libertarian, it's just because he's a Republican. Like I don't. It's like, what did he do that was libertarian that like any Republican wouldn't do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's some of these like libertarian guys. Like, what's the guy's name? Dave Smith. I've been seeing him everywhere.
Yes.
He's kind of actually anti-war. I don't know everything about him, but he is kind of. He's
like I debated Dave Smith twice back in 2019, 2020.
He was on the show once.
Yeah,
very early episode.
Yeah, that was like literally, it was like the second or third episode of the show. The second one of those debates. The first one was on his show, Part of the Problem. And it's like, look, I disagree with Dave about like probably 97% of domestic policy, right? But he's actually really good on stuff like Israel Palestine. Like he, I actually really enjoy watching him argue about that stuff. And like the thing that I've always given him credit for, I think I said this actually when he came up, a couple times, right? That to him, right? That's like the thing that again, I mean, man has many, many, many views that I don't like and don't agree with, right? But like, but I will give him credit for being one of the few libertarians who actually seems to like get most worked up about the things about the state that are actually like morally really objectionable, right? That it's like it's like, oh yeah, we're like helping the IDF displace millions of Palestinians rather than like, honestly, in my experience, the vast majority of libertarians, like what really gets them hot and bothered is the top marginal tax rate.
Yeah. And what's that clip? Like driver's license? They get pissed off about toasters and driver's licenses too.
Yes. Yes.
Like
why
classic.
should I need the government's permission to drive a car? What's next? I need a license to toast a piece of bread on my own damn toaster.
That's my
Rubin,
favorite.
Yeah.
That's my favorite kind of libertarian. The guy who's just like, I'm pretty crazy, and that's I'm gonna just funnel that into libertarianism. That's my favorite kind.
I like the guy who's like stripped off all of his clothes like while on stage at the Libertarian Party convention, and then just like walked off naked.
Powerful statement. Yeah, I mean,
Hell
real quick,
yeah.
I pulled up here. This is, I believe, the official Libertarian Party website. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it says libertarians believe that if someone is peaceful, they should be welcome to immigrate to the United States. Yeah, I mean, looking through this, doesn't look very Trumpian. Maybe he would argue they are not, they're not sending their best. They're not peaceful. But it says libertarians do not support classifying undocumented immigrants as criminals. Our current immigration system is an embarrassment. So I don't know. There might be some contradictions or some struggle sessions if Trump were to leave the Libertarian Party or get their nomination. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, on the surface, this seems like the least libertarian thing of all time, right? Like that you're taking people who are literally just trying to like non-violently move around from one place to another to like get a job or like escape bad conditions, and you're putting them in cages. So, I don't know. I would think that would be at least as bad as licensing requirements for operating a motor vehicle, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It is always really interesting to me, though, when people who are libertarians or think they're libertarians sort of like what will bring, like, just take that individualism flying out the window. And suddenly, like, the whole worldview is about, like, good and bad, like ethnic hive minds, right? That it's like, like the Mexicans in,
Right.
in this case, right? So I actually have, I think we have graphics for these. So do you guys remember Walter Block?
Oh yeah, I think he was on. He debated Sam Cedar, right?
He did,
He's
yeah.
the one who said, "Hey, shut up."
Oh my
That's like-
God, that's a classic clip right there.
Yeah, he also, there was like a debate he did with Sam Cedar that was kind of a notorious train wreck, and he did he did come on this show very early on also.
Was it the same episode as Dave?
No, it was different episode. It was like months apart, but that would just be too much libertarianism for one episode. But that was the classic clip though, where in fact maybe an early sign of where it's going to go, that he was making like a sort of classical libertarian argument about minimum wages are bad because they lead to unemployment, and and he wanted to do the twist that's like, oh, see, this is like, it's like the usual like conservative libertarian futility argument. Oh, see, you're actually going to hurt the people you want to help. But he wanted to do the twist on it to show that it's particularly hurting black people, so they're libs. And his way of putting it involved using the phrase, "If I were the king of the black people, then I would, get rid of the minimum wage." So that, that clip.
Man.
So yeah, we have a 10.
They might. Libertarians might not be the most socially intelligent people in the world. It seems often, but okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. There are definitely some instances of that might not be. That might not actually be a way to build a lot of bridges in that direction. But yeah, we'll see if we can dig that up for the post game. If I were the king of the black people, but he recently wrote an article for an online magazine called Marion West. That is just kind of an amazing example, I think, of the individualism flying out the window and suddenly everything's ethnic hive minds. It's called "Yes to a Palestinian State, just not inside or right next to Israel." And in it he says, it's fine for there to be a Palestinian state, but because of Hamas and this and that, it can't be in the areas that Palestinians actually live right now. So he suggests, for example, the Palestinians relocate. He doesn't really say how voluntary he thinks this would or wouldn't be, to the Sinai Desert and in Egypt, and which, by the way, if you glance at a map, is in fact right next to Israel. But and that there can be a Palestinian state there. And so I actually just like an hour ago, this went up on the Marion West website. They invited me to write a reply to it, which, I say, it's not particularly interesting that I disagree with Block's argument. I'm a bleeding heart left-winger who thinks every human being is right to healthcare, housing, much more. Whereas Block, they don't include this in the poll quote, as I understand it, is such an extreme libertarian. He doesn't believe there should be such a thing as public sidewalks. The interesting part is that Block's argument. So, clearly if you start from the values that I do, then, the sort of odiousness of this is pretty obvious. But the interesting part is it seems to me it also flies in the face of the values that Walter Block is supposed to care about. Because, again, what kind of belief in property rights is this, right? If you, if you think you can like displace millions of people from their homes.
So Ben, what you're saying is if you were king of the libertarians, you would not displace millions of people from their homes.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly what I'm saying. So anyway, I emailed Professor Block and gave him a link to the article and said if he wanted to come on here and discuss, he's more than welcome to. So we'll see if that happens or not. But in any case, because we were given potential Libertarian Party presidential candidate, Dave Rubin. They almost picked him, I'm sure. Such a hard time. I don't want to let Dave go here without giving the man credit where credit's due, because he has evolved. In fact, I think we have video evidence of him actually learning something.
So, and then of course that the appeal probably will not go well, because as you know, the 5 Supreme Court judges in New York all happen to be black females. But I don't know if you know this, but when they appeal this thing, it gets appealed to the Supreme Court of New York, obviously not to the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court of New York has 5 black female judges. The appeal to go to the Supreme Court of New York, because it's a New York trial, we showed you video about a month ago. It's 5 black women because of diversity. But it's basically statistically impossible to have 5 black female Supreme Court justices. It is virtually, someone ran the numbers on this and one of my guys can correct me, it's virtually impossible statistically to have a court makeup of 5 black women. The left's diversity ends up with 5 black women being in charge of the Supreme Court of New York. So you might think that this has a little something to do with DEI. So DEI and diversity did get these women, at least some of them, the job. So then you have to think, do they all kind of think the same thing? And do they think judicially the same thing? And do they all kind of think the same thing about Trump? What a horrible thing to have to think about, that just because of someone's skin color. But do you think that they probably think similar things, and they probably don't like Donald Trump, and that's probably how they got the job in the first place? Like, do you think, is that a crazy conspiracy theory? And the other problem is, I know you know this, that on the appeal side, there are 5 black female Supreme Court justices in New York. They wanted diversity, and they actually got the least diverse thing. Now, I know, of course, that your skin color and gender.
The Supreme Court is the lowest court in New York. Court of Appeals is the highest court.
Wait, so the Supreme...
There's not 5 female...
Oh, so it's not going to the New York Supreme...
No,
nice
I know New York is a wacky...
Oh, okay.
New York has a weird name for its courts. Supreme Court is the lowest court, it's the trial court.
So that's not the appeals court?
No.
Oh, well, that's refreshing.
It'll go up to the appellate division, first department.
I like being corrected on air, by the way. Yeah.
And then it'll go up to the Court of Appeals.
So it goes to them first.
First, it'll go to the appellate division, first department,
right,
which is the area that he was tried in, like Manhattan. And then it'll go up to the Court of Appeals, which is our highest court.
All right, well, at least I had a
But anyway, I mean,
had
look,
a legit error. Okay. It's 5 black women.
David, that sounds ridiculous.
Oh, jeez.
It's a beautiful thing to see somebody learning something about civics.
Yes. It's like this happens a lot when I watch, a lot of these conservative videos. Is like I end up actually like feeling sorry for them. Like it's like you start out like, oh, I'm gonna make fun, I'm gonna dunk on them, and you're like, oh man, I would feel bad if that happened to me.
Oh my God, yeah. It's like it almost made me think of, do you remember Naomi Wolf a few years ago, before she like really lost her mind? When she'd written, do you remember her death reported thing?
No.
Do you guys know this?
The only thing I know about Naomi Wolf is that she used to get confused for Naomi Klein all the time.
Yeah. I'm actually writing a review of that book for.
Nice. I can't wait to read that. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely feel for Naomi Klein on that one. She actually quotes our main guest tonight. She here in that book is saying that, it's hard not to read this as anti-Semitism. You should be able to handle 2 Naomis, but
inside both of us are 2 Naomis.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I hope she says that in that book somewhere. It's too perfect. It's right there.
Yeah, it's but it like so back before COVID, like Naomi Wolf has gone in this whole progression, like where she is not just like, it's not just that she kind of had like somewhat right coded politics on COVID or something, like somebody who's like, oh, we shouldn't have closed the schools, or like things like that, right? Like it's like she is somebody who will say stuff like, she can taste that they like air is different in like Ireland because they don't have the 5G and like the and like there is like no conspiracy theory about that she'll turn up her nose at, right? I mean, she's down with all of them, right? Like I don't know if she's ever said that like vaccines, give you magnetic, but that would be like well within the range of things I could imagine Naomi Wolf saying. And so she's just become this just like really luridly crazy person the last few years, but like was not always so. Right. I mean, she wrote a very like, mainstream kind of feminist book about beauty standards in the 90s. She was actually an advisor to Al Gore during his presidential campaign in 2000. And like, I don't know, several years ago, 5 years ago, something like that, she wrote this book that was about the history of like British like laws about homosexuality and stuff. And she found out on air, like while she was being interviewed about it, that there's this like really crucial thing in the book where she was just like misinterpreting this old timey British legal phrase that like it would say like death reported, and she took that to mean the person had been executed. And it like literally meant the opposite of that was like they were gonna excuse it. And it's like, there's a reason I didn't ask. I knew I was going to bring this up. We talked about Dave Rubin. There's a reason I didn't ask for the clip of it. I can't watch it again because it's actually painful to watch because like,
oh my God,
I actually feel awful for crazy ass Naomi. Because like she wrote this book and like she's finding out literally she's been interviewed on the radio about it that like there's a sort of like big factual premise that's just like, she just misread what it said in the records.
Oh, geez. It's like a totally public, like failure or something. It's I mean, I mean, it is hard to feel sorry for Dave Rubin with anything, but just for it to be that public is, it's hard not to feel for him. It's hard not to be like, man, I know I've felt publicly embarrassed before, and you know what I mean? But it's Dave Rubin at the same time.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to investigate where he got this claim too, because if you actually look into, I think there are multiple Supreme Courts in New York because it's not the same thing.
But the district, there's 23 judges on the Supreme Court in New York, and 5 of them happen to be Black women.
Oh, so it's like a game of telephone. It's like, because he was claiming they're all Black women, but
that is definitely what he was making it sound like, that this is like under New York judicial rules, like Trump's appeal will be heard by the Council of Black Women.
Yeah, which I wouldn't have a huge problem with that, but if that were the case. But it sounds like it was also like not even statistically representative, maybe of my population of New York City.
That's not even that crazy a number. I mean, like that's like
I mean, it's almost.
I mean, that's less than a quarter of the population of the court is Black women.
Which, so I don't know where maybe it's like some producer gave him, or maybe he it's probably not a producer. It's probably
I'm sure he heard the phrase.
He hired Jimmy Dore's producer.
When Jimmy had to fire his ass for because that producer was definitely totally at fault. For all the things. Which, by the way, I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but since he's already been invoked. I saw a Jimmy Dore tweet yesterday that just, it's a small thing in the history of this guy's antics, but it's kind of amazing. So do you guys see over the weekend, there was all this play in like right-wing spaces about something called the American College of Pediatrics, like coming out with this like anti-gender transition thing. Like all these guys were like tweeting up a storm about this. And okay, so it was a whole thing. If you were following a bunch of right wingers on Twitter, you would get the impression that this was like a major, like this was like a earth shattering event, right? Mm-hmm. In youth medicine, that they'd like come out with this thing. And Jimmy Dore, you know, bought it, right? He says, here, I've got the tweet. So you can see the doctor in, you know, the white lab coat delivering the announcement, and he says, "I'm sure these doctors were all just phobic haters." It's the American College of Pediatrics, not to be accused with the association, which is the actual like professional organization, is a tiny fringe right-wing organization. I think has like 700 members total. That I think I saw like they'd actually like split off from like the actual professional association many years ago, because the professional association had said that like adoption by gay people was fine, and they like objected to that. So they're like, it's like a right-wing organization that's restating a position they've held forever, but they're calling it an announcement, and they wore white lab coats to give it. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's like whatever you think about, you know, what the policy should be or whatever. It's just like, this is like, you know, Dore is always saying, like, he's always doing all this self-deprecating stuff about how dumb he is, right? Oh, I'm just a pothead comedian and I can see it, right? It's like, I don't know. At a certain point, you got to be like, yeah, this guy actually seems pretty dumb. Maybe you shouldn't listen to him.
Maybe I should take his advice. He's kind of dumb. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It's, I wonder what people get out of that. It's sort of like, you know, I don't know. People have said this about Joe Rogan too, you know, that it's like, well, this guy doesn't really know what he's talking about. I don't know. Do people just listen to stuff like Jimmy Dore because they like his presentation or something?
That's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, which is also, I mean, I've got to say, it's also part of why I never like, I mean, look, I'll obviously cop to my bias here, right? You know, I mean, I before I did this show, it was on, you know, TNBS, where much fun was had at his expense, you know, but so I probably never gave him that much of a hearing, but it's also like part of why he always rubbed me the wrong way is it's because, like, I think the very thing that I think some people like about him is that, you know, he's just so fucking performatively angry all the time, right? You know, that it's like, he's like, I see, you know, he's like giving vent to, you know, my feelings, right? And I get that, right? There's certainly things that like you should get angry about, but like, I just kind of don't really trust that anybody is like actually organically angry that much of the time.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Also, like, as somebody who did listen to his show a decade ago, like, and we've actually had on this show one of the hosts that was on the show back then.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yep.
Who you know, like, he was surrounded by really talented comedians, and so like, his anger bits were only a small part of the whole thing, and you had, like, you know, Frank Conniff, who's from Mystery Science Theater 3000, who's great. You have I forget the other guy, but he does these great impressions, and he's absolutely hilarious. And
the phone
Robert
calls.
Yasamura is hilarious and great. And so, like, you know, it made the show really good because it wasn't for Jimmy Dore, it was for the people who he was you know, working with.
Right.
I was looking for that tweet, and his pinned tweet is some of my favorite comedians betrayed comedy, their audience, and themselves when, what did they do? When they shamed people for questioning authority, big pharma, government, and scolded them for doing their own research. I just like that he's saying they betrayed comedy, like the concept of comedy, by supporting the vaccine.
No, definitely comedy has political positions. But you have the wrong one.
And definitely the hilarious one is definitely screaming about vaccines and claiming to give you autism. That's clearly the only funny choice. And then he says, "I can forgive them, but they can't forgive me," is what he says.
Okay. All right. That's
in that tweet. He seems very forgiving.
I mean, that's kind of funny because I remember that classic Bill Cosby routine about Spanish fly. You know, I mean, he talked a lot about medication in that bit.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it's also like, again, like, I don't think because I've seen him, like I've seen like a bit from his stand-up, which you know, politics aside, right? I think if you're watching stand-up comedy and somebody's like literally just ranting to you about their opinions, it's probably not very good comedy. But but I've seen a clip from a stand-up where, you know, he's talking about, you know, he's like kind of trying to channel this like old Bill Hicks thing, but he's like doing it badly. And he's talking about, you know, that phrase, do your own research, and how crazy it is that people made that sound like a bad thing or whatever. It's like, I don't really think he's getting the point, right? Like, this is like, it's like, yeah, nobody's literally against doing your own research. Like, people make fun of the phrase, do your own research, right? Because like what that means in practice is like, you know, do a couple of Google searches until you can like find something you can glance through that confirms what you already want to believe. Right? Like, that, you know, watch 3 videos on YouTube and, you know, decide that, like, you know, that's like what research, you know, like this is, I remember Slavoj Žižek, right, when he was on, you know, like kind of during the height of COVID, making this point, right? He said like this Slovenian version of that phrase is like, think with your own brain or something like that. And he said, and, you know, he was like, look, I'd love it if people did their own research, like, but I don't, you know, most people are not going to do their own like epidemiological, like field research, right? I mean, they're, you know, that's not what they mean, right? Like, and again, I don't, you know, I'm not even saying this from the perspective of being like, you know, super invested in everything that anybody on his end ever said is like wrong about this stuff, right? It's like, I don't know. Like I think a lot of the, you know, COVID stuff, people are like trying to like model things that have just happened very quickly. There are things that were wrong, you know, I'm not, you know, lab leak. I have no idea, right? Like all that stuff, right? Like I'm not like coming at this from the perspective of like some sort of like hyper partisan on the other end of it perspective. But it's just like, again, I don't know. He seems like a dumb guy. I think he has dumb opinions.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. To your point, Ben. Like, I think, like I read an article about, you know, how maybe it was a lab leak in the New York Times, and how Fauci actually did help. I don't know if personally, but somehow he was involved in the effort to fund some of these labs that were maybe doing risky research. You know what I mean? But it's just kind of like the idiotic critiques of Fauci makes it very difficult to even understand like what the real ones might be, you know, like most public officials probably are worthy of critique in some way, but it's just like, you know, it's very easy for like the like you said, the hyper partisans and the, you know, COVID obsessives, like people who are still obsessed, right, with like like saying Fauci is like, you know, the next I don't even know saint or whatever, that he made zero mistakes, you know, which maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't really care. He's not like my personal hero, but it you know, these people who are just like make everything into this like crazy conspiracy is it makes it very difficult to even figure out the truth on that end, you know, or like want to even listen to legit critiques, which I'm sure there are. Like,
no, totally. I mean, look, Sam Adler-Bell was a guest on this show back in like 2021 or something, and he to talk about an article that he wrote criticizing Fauci, right? I mean, it wasn't really criticizing him for the same reasons, but like, you know, he was criticizing him, and we did interview him on the show about it, right? Like, you know, the issue, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, this is the, you know, there's so many of these guys. Well, I mean, like that Dore tweet the pinned tweet you just read. It's like, you know, it's they're settled on this very specific narrative, and if you don't completely buy into it, you know, you're just like a pawn of like big pharma, right? And it's like it always also just really seems to misunderstand to me like why the left dislikes big pharma, right? It's not typically that we don't think their products work, right? Like it's that we object to the way they're distributed, right? That like we don't want people to be charged for them.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. That's where the libertarian thing seems kind of, I don't know, it runs into problems because it's like you're against big pharma, but it's also like, I don't know, you like the idea that like every gas station you go into, you could get like a Monster Energy drink, and you're drinking those, and you're, you know, I mean, unless you're totally like a raw food person, you're putting stuff into your body that's, I mean, extremely questionable. So it seems very selective is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's in a very tribal way, I guess.
No, totally. Yeah. You shouldn't, you shouldn't use medicine that's manufactured by giant corporations, but the Monster Energy drink manufactured by giant corporation is totally fine.
Totally cool. And we need like 8 different varieties of it too. That's free. That's freedom,
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about why people like these kind of guys, RM. I feel like, I mean, obviously this is part of the appeal, but I'm thinking of like things you should look out for if you're like watching your favorite political commentator. I feel like if they divide the world and people into like our side, and everyone who deviates from our side, even the littlest bit, is in the pocket of some big shadowy force. And there's leftists. I mean, I guess he nominally started on the left, but plenty of leftists do this too. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like the second that you're deviating at all, I don't even know what you are, Biden supporter or like a capitalist or whatever it is. Which sometimes those are fair critiques, but I mean, it's like if you have such a stark worldview of friends and enemies, I feel like that's just kind of like a red flag for anyone in politics. I mean, we do have real enemies, but especially when it's just like these issues. Which
you have real enemies for the most part, and and don't get me wrong. I mean, right, there are people who, there are people who are like, I don't know, somebody's like a Nazi. Right. They're obviously my enemy. Right. But like also, in my experience, most people are not Nazis. It's just even sometimes people who are bad aren't Nazis. I would say that for the most part, yeah, I mean, we're real enemies, but those are people who are enemies because they're for structural reasons. Right. Like, they benefit from the current system and want to keep it going, right? Like but it's not, it's not that the problem is not that they have bad souls, right? The problem is that, we have a system that gives them bad incentives. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.